Hey, it's Chuck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. It is showtime, and welcome to Buckeye Huddle Prime Time. Appreciate you so much for joining us. Indianapolis is on fire, talking about a couple of Ohio State linebackers, in particular Sonny Styles, who many think might just be the all-time perfect linebacker prospect in the history of all of football. It's just amazing. I'm sitting here watching the combine, which I don't usually do. It's quite funny listening to the way people are talking about Sonny Styles and the way we've been talking about him for like 6 years now. Feels like we've known what an absolute freakazoid Sonny Styles has been for, I don't know. It just feels like a decade, to me, honestly. And listening to the way people are talking about him, watching him get interviewed, and he's kind of salty with his times. He's kind of a little bit salty that he only got 43.5 inches on the vertical jump. The fastest 40 time tied with Arvell Reese at 4.7. Just amazing. But their measurables come in better than expected by a lot of people. Sonny gets the full 6'5", 244. Arvell 6'4" and an eighth, 241. And listening to Rich Eisen have to sit here on the NFL Network and talk very positively about a couple of Buckeyes because he can't do anything but, or else he'd be a total hack, which I know hasn't stopped him in the past, but he is giving them their due run. But Sonny, a 43.5-inch vertical jump. This picture is just ridiculous. Look at that picture, man. Are you kidding me? I guess for a guy that's over 6'4", this is the best vertical jump that they've seen since like 2011. They're calling it a Calvin Johnson-esque combine for Sonny, and 4.47 was that time. They tie with one other guy who's much smaller than them as the two fastest linebackers in the country. I'll tell you what makes it even cooler to me. You know, I don't know. It's been 25 years, this discussion about, I mean, we can even go back to even longer than that, like Florida speed. And it's just been like dudes from the North aren't as good of athletes. It's just ridiculous narrative. This is a Cleveland and Columbus dude who are the two biggest freaks in this entire draft and in a long time. And I love hearing about it. I obviously love our out-of-state Buckeyes who want to come in and be part of everything we are here in Ohio. But it hits a little harder for me when it's two guys from the state of Ohio that are just absolutely dominating and going to be top 5 picks. And it's fantastic. But here's the funniest thing I heard today. Anthony Hill. I don't know if you guys remember this, but coming into the Texas game at the beginning of 2025, Anthony Hill, widely considered as the best linebacker in college football. And I was arguing with quite a few Texas fans back before that game that Anthony Hill was not the best linebacker in college football. But I heard today Anthony Hill might be able to sneak himself into the first round. Certainly was not the best linebacker in college football. In fact, he wasn't even in the top 3. Both Buckeye linebackers were better than him. And I want to talk about the linebackers today. I want to talk about James Laurinaitis. I want to talk about the depth chart. I want to talk about some recruiting. Caden Curry. Caden Curry comes in at 6'3", 257. Arms were relatively short. We knew that was going to be the case. He's not doing the agility drills. He's going to do those, I think, at let's see. He's not doing something at the combine. He's doing like half at the combine, half at pro day. That's one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to. I think that he can really raise or his stock might drop depending on how he performs. But either way, somebody's going to get an absolute steal. If it's not so good, the testing and the measurables aren't so good, they're going to get an even bigger steal because that guy's just going to be awesome. But how in the heck is this linebacker room in 2026 going to look, I don't know, anything like it did in 2025? Like, we know it's going to drop back. There's no way it can't possibly drop back doesn't mean it can't still be really good or elite. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about James Laurinaitis doing absolute work as always. And I want to talk about two of his favorite prospects this cycle and what the Ohio State recruiting and scouting apparatus is putting together here. Really impressive as they're beating the rest of the country to the punch on a lot of these guys. Cortez Hankton, new wide receiver coach Cortez Hankton, looks like he is coming in trying to really impress right off the rip. We got a surprise 5-star wide receiver visit coming into town, and one that's committed to Texas Tech, which is probably going to be a pretty difficult pull. But nonetheless, Cortez Hankton is getting after it. I'm really impressed with the connections he's making so far on the trail. So all that tonight on Buckeye Huddle Primetime. Please, let's start it off right by doing our part in flexing that Ohio State muscle. The Ohio State fan base, the most powerful in all of college football. And we show that by how many websites and media sites that we support. It's truly unparalleled. And a guy like me knows, man, I go do the research on all these other programs. They got nothing like we got. All the options we got, all successful options. It's all because of us. We are the most powerful fan base in the entire country. So make sure you like and subscribe to all your favorite Ohio State content, especially your friendly fellas here at Buckeye Huddle, as we do our best to cover everything from all different angles and different points of view and have fun doing it. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll be sure to get to them. My man, Terry, what's up, buddy? Good to see you tonight. James Laurinaitis, when he was working under Jim Knowles, was technically the linebackers coach, right? But James was pretty much running the room. And James played a huge part getting Payton Pierce, bringing in Garrett Stover, who Garrett Stover was a top 10 linebacker in the country, believe it or not. But the room was not officially his at that point until Ryan Day fired special teams coach Parker Fleming. And at that time, the most obvious choice, if you weren't going to use that countable coach on a new special teams coordinator, was James Laurinaitis, right? It couldn't be any more perfect to hire James Laurinaitis as the Ohio State linebackers coach. But Ryan Day was really taking his time. And when he was taking his time, there were a lot of thoughts. All right, he's taking this time. Maybe it means he's going to bring in a successor for Larry Johnson, an additional defensive line coach, call him an edge coach, and he'll be the guy who takes over for Larry Johnson. What else could you possibly be looking for when you got James Laurinaitis right there? I've got something to share with you about Larry Johnson and his potential retirement. Remind me later. But a lot of people thought that maybe James wasn't interested in taking on that full-time job. He's got younger children. Perhaps that's what the delay was. And in the end, of course, he hires James Laurinaitis. And obviously, upon making that hire, it was widely well received from the Ohio State fan base. And we all knew that it was going to be the Heartline version on defense. And of course, the similarities between them are great. And it has been a smashing success thus far. And he has done it without his handpicked guys. I mean, think about what he's done so far in the linebacker room. This guy had to inherit somebody else's players. He inherits a safety, comes down, and he's doing what the best he can with a converted safety, Sonny Styles. Somebody else brought in Arvell Reese, and he's got to make do with him. Honestly, has anybody been luckier in the history of college football than to walk in to your linebacker room, and it's a linebacker room that's maybe been a little underperforming, and you've got to work with these two guys? It's crazy. It's crazy. But obviously, in his first year as a full-time coach, he takes Cody Simon and turns Cody Simon into a new version, better version of Cody. Cody in 2023 was a 300 snap guy. And you had Tommy and Steele, both 600 snaps. James said he probably made a mistake not playing Cody a little more that year. And Cody gets his opportunity in 2024. And Cody's the guy now getting 600 snaps. And he turns Cody into an absolute dude. That was Sonny's junior year. And heading into that year, matter of fact, after Sonny's junior year, heading into last year, he says he's going to return. So he's going to return. And I was excited about him returning. I didn't expect Sonny to take the leap that he did, because we don't often see a guy, even as talented as Sonny is, take such a big step forward from junior to senior year. And I just wasn't putting enough enough into the fact that he did change positions and how much that takes to just build those mental reps and just see it over and over and over. But the leap he made from junior to senior year was amazing. Obviously, Arvell, you get to use him in a whole different way when you bring in Matt Patricia, and it makes him just totally different. But all the promise that we ever had in Sonny was totally fulfilled, thanks to James Laurinaitis. And it's just rare that we see a guy turn into an absolute superstar his senior year, guy that didn't miss a tackle until the final game of the year. It was damn near flawless, almost a flawless year of football. And it's probably just going to get better in the NFL. He's just everything you could possibly ask for on every front. I mean, personality, everything. And then you got A8 doing whatever the heck you want with. And who knows how the NFL is going to use him. Going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. So that's James's track record so far. Send Cody off to the NFL, take these two aliens and turn them into high-end first rounders. And he's done that. So done everything he could so far at the highest level. And now you're looking at 2 top 10 picks coming out of his room, and the recruits that are seeing that, it's becoming much easier for him already. It's even becoming easier than it was. He's just so good at the recruiting end of things that it's almost at the point where he's kind of hand selecting rather than recruiting. When we talk about you get your top group of 5-6 guys, we know James is going to get 2 of his top 5-6 guys. Maybe that is even smaller. And when we look at next year's room, you got obviously your, maybe we could call him, I guess, your Cody Simon, right? Your veteran guy coming in, and Christian Alliegro. Is he going to be the guy that comes in and is that kind of 600 snap a game guy along with Payton Pierce? Not sure. Obviously, Payton Pierce, you got a lot of people who, despite the way James Laurinaitis talks about him, I hear a lot of people talk about him in the similar way that they talk to Cody Simon heading into his senior year. Cody Simon heading into his senior year, there was a lot of people who were salty that he seemed like he kind of got that spot handed to him, and you had CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles fighting to play next to him. And there was a lot of people who didn't want to see Cody Simon, which is pretty comical looking back now that we know what Cody's become. But this year, does the room take a step backwards? I think it's going to take a little step backwards for sure. But how good can Christian Alliegro be? Let's start with him. Transfer from Wisconsin, big dude, right? He's got Sonny and Arvell's size. He's an athlete. He's obviously not their level of athlete, but he's smart, decent speed. He's strong. He's heavy. He's pretty good rushing the passer. Not a superstar. I mean, Wisconsin did let him walk, right? And they had a couple of freshmen last year at linebacker that they were comfortable with, and they let him walk. But he's coming to a school that's kind of like a finishing school. You're coming in to play for James Laurinaitis and Matt Patricia to get the absolute best out of what you got. They're going to polish these old dudes up, send them off to the NFL in probably a much better position than they would have been had they stayed where they were at. And I think they're going to do a really great job with Alliegro, who's got great football instincts, great at diagnosing where the ball is going to go. And that can get you an extra beat. That can make you faster, right? It can make you faster when you've got those instincts. And that's great for Alliegro. So he's a veteran, got all the tricks, played a ton of football, very sure tackler, physical enough to knock a guard back. Heck, against Michigan, we saw him knock a tackle on his keister, which was awesome. And in that penny front, that 5-man front, there are times he's going to play that down man. He's going to play that Arvell role at times in that front. And other times we'll see probably a guy like Quay Russaw come in, who's kind of a hybrid. He played 150 snaps last year at Alabama. 100 of them were on the line. 50 of them were in the box. So he's that hybrid dude, probably be in the defensive line room and have a lot to do with James too. But then you got Payton Pierce, who's become a bit of a lightning rod. There's a lot of people that doubt Payton Pierce, similar to Cody. And I don't know, like if people went and looked and actually kind of keyed in, I think you walk away from a game times and you think of a guy who maybe missed a tackle here or didn't make enough plays or didn't flash enough, or maybe he didn't look fast enough to you on one particular play, and just kind of make a blanket statement about him. And a lot of people, I've heard making not so great flattering statements about Payton. I think Payton, when you actually dig in on Payton and key in on Payton, did his job at a really high level. The numbers agree with that. Really, I mean, actually, like if you want to look at his PFF, run defense, pass numbers, he did quite a bit better than Alliegro last year. In fact, his missed tackle rate, just 4.3. Alliegro's was 17.5. Payton is a really solid running back, linebacker. And when we look at the jump that Laurinaitis' linebackers has made from that 300 snap year to the following year, it would make sense that we see Payton make a big jump from last year to this year. And I think you kind of need to. You need to see him make that big jump. But are we going to see Payton immediately go up to that 600 snap a year guy? Or might we see more of the younger guys if they're ready to go? Because you're in this situation now, and it's different, man. It's like, you got 5 years ago, for instance, even if you had guys that were ready to go behind your starters, they weren't playing much because they weren't going to be as good as your starters. But now you're in this situation, and some coaches will handle this better than others. Some coaches will be able to pacify their younger guys better than others. Some young guys can handle this better than others, but they want to play. And if they're ready to play and they're not going to hurt you, you kind of want to get them on the field. You don't want to risk losing them at the end of the year. That's your future. You spent all this time in recruiting them, all this effort to get them on campus, get them in the program for a year, for 2 years. You don't want them to walk. And it's a player's world, man. It's a player's world right now. We all know what time it is. You got to keep them happy. So if they're ready to go, you're going to play them more. And that can be pretty exciting in a room where you've got a lot of young talent. This room certainly counts as a room that has a lot of young talent. And these dudes, the young guys are more explosive athletes than the older dudes. It's going to be a lot of fun watching them come in. Obviously, Riley Pettijohn has to play this year. The number 2 linebacker in the class of 2025, just a massive win for James Laurinaitis, pulling him out of the state of Texas, beating Texas, beating a late surge from USC. And we saw his athleticism on display early in the season. We saw his fire in the way he just against Michigan. I don't know if you saw the walkout. So the walkout of the tunnel, Riley Pettijohn was probably the most fired up of any of the Buckeyes coming out of that tunnel. It had me fired up. And that was a freshman. And I absolutely love watching that. So he's that kind of dude, man. He's that kind of linebacker. He's obviously got crazy athleticism. He's smart. The only thing he's missing is a little bit of length. But even without that length, he's a really good pass rusher. He can come off the edge. He can bend. Last year, 77 total snaps on the year, 7 tackles, 3 missed tackles, just a really small sample size. Would have loved to see him play a little more. But how much does he play this year? How much can he earn this year? I think it'll be quite a bit more. And then, of course, you got TJ Alford, who comes in with him last year as the number 13 overall linebacker. That is not the way James Laurinaitis saw it. In fact, before James Laurinaitis got that job, he was allowed to travel for like 1 weekend as a non-countable coach. The very first place he went was to Vero Beach to visit TJ Alford. TJ was in his top 3. At 6'1", up to 230 now, TJ was one of his top targets, and that was a really difficult recruitment. And if it weren't for James Laurinaitis, and specifically James Laurinaitis, TJ Alford is not a Buckeye. He absolutely was just enamored by James. Obviously, his family, a big-time Miami family, and they wanted him to stay home. And TJ wanted to be with James, trusted him, comes up to play for him, and he's, looking pretty good last year. I think that we're going to see quite a bit of him as well. So with those 4 guys, you also got Garrett Stover in his 3rd year, who got passed over last year. He's put on quite a bit of size. He was a safety coming out, but we always knew he'd be a linebacker. He's incredibly fast, one of the fastest guys on the team, straightaway speed. Definitely the fastest linebacker in a race, but not the fastest in small spaces or the fastest in change of direction. And then you got Eli Lee, by the time Eli Lee out of Akron here comes of age, I think that he'll eventually, a lot of people are writing him off. I think he's going to be potentially a guy who plays at Ohio State still. There's a lot of people who immediately wrote him off as soon as he committed. Now, James called him the next Tommy Eichenberg, a Tommy Eichenberg type. And it is fair to say, if we continue to see the talent being brought in, like we're seeing being brought in, would a Tommy Eichenberg type be able to start in a linebacker room after James Laurinaitis has assembled the talent in it for 4 years? It's fair to say that. So maybe he does play, maybe he doesn't. But either way, this is a guy that could play at Ohio State. He's not a stiff, for sure. And then, of course, you roll into the class of 2026, bring in the number one linebacker in the country, which still blows my mind, Sincere Johnson. It is amazing how this dude climbed to number one. I really still can't believe it. There's people out there who have honestly ranked him over Tyler Atkinson and Xavier Griffin, which is just crazy, man. Those two dudes were identified really, really young as just ultimate freaks. And when they were number one and number two in the country, Sincere Johnson was still fighting to get an offer from Ohio State. And then he goes and just absolutely blows up his junior and senior year. It was just amazing. Incredibly fast trigger, total thumper. But how much do we get to see him play? Do we get to see him play the 70 snaps Riley had his freshman year? Does he potentially jump one of those guys? He's certainly got the skill to be able to do so. The number one linebacker in the country. And then you got freshman CJ Sana out of Olentangy, number 15 linebacker in the country coming out of high school at a legit 6'3", 225. He is faster in small spaces and faster change of direction than Sincere Johnson. I've seen it myself. Quicker change of direction. This is a guy who is a supreme athlete. I know there's a lot of people don't believe that right off the rip. He really is. A lot of people write him off too. That's a guy, without a doubt, going to play at Ohio State. And then you got Braxton Rembert. Braxton Rembert, all credit to the Ohio State scouting department, at 6'5", 200 pounds. This is a total scouting win. Was outside the top 1,000 when Ohio State offered him and flipped him from Wake Forest, his only Power 4 offer. And this kid's going to be something. Elite athlete. One of the best basketball players in the state of Georgia. And he needs a year to get his body right. I mean, he's just a little skinny now. But his neck, I just saw a recent picture of him. His neck is already looking like, okay, that's a linebacker looking neck now. And at some point, this kid's got the potential to be another one of these absolute combine freaks for sure, because he's already got the speed. And when you look at this room, man, this is loaded, but it's also mixed in perfectly because you need to mix in a room with lots of different guys that are going to be on different plans. You can't just have a bunch of 5 stars, high-level 4 stars that are all ready to play now, and they all want to play now. You got to have guys in there like an Eli Lee, who's going to be content being on the Cody Simon plan. He wants to be a Buckeye. He's going to stick around for that 5-year plan. Like, you need dudes like that. And hopefully Garrett Stover is another one of those guys that wants to stick around. Did I forget to put Stover on here? I'm sorry, guys. Here, man, I feel so bad. Garrett's not on there. But my point is, you absolutely need those guys. They're just as important, even if you forget to put them on the thing. Okay. But when we talk about recruiting in James's first 2 classes, if we're just going by the 247 composite rankings, James Laurinaitis has brought in the number 1, number 2, number 9, number 13, number 15 linebacker. Those are his top 5. And then Eli Lee is an outlier local kid. But 1, 2, 9, 13, 15. I don't think you could do any better than that if you brought in Dick Butkus himself to coach the Ohio State linebacker room. That's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And he is going to, in short order, take over that title as the number 1 linebacker room in the country from Georgia. I got no doubt about it. The Butkus Trophy coming to Ohio State, and you absolutely got to love it. So, Class number 1, obviously he gets the number 2 linebacker in Riley Pettijohn, 13 in TJ Alford. Class number 2, the number 1 linebacker in Sincere, number 15 in CJ Sana, number 6 in Braxton Rembert. That's crazy. So we're getting very close to the point where James is handpicking his guys, similar to how it felt with Hartline in his peak. And in a way, it kind of adds a totally different level of pressure when you are kind of guaranteed to get 2 of your top 5 guys. Now it's like, you better choose right. You know what I mean? Everybody else is in this situation where, yeah, well, heck, if I could have got that guy, yeah, sure. Laurinaitis can get that guy. Whoever the hell that guy is, he can get him. So he's got to pick right. We know he's already got one in this class of 2027. Kicks it off, beating Glenn Schumann for North Carolina linebacker, Quentin Cipher. Let me pull up Quentin here. Quentin Cipher is now the composite 13th ranked linebacker. He'll finish in the top 10. He absolutely deserves to be. But Quentin, this is a dude, man. Total dude. And James obviously handpicks him as his first guy, beats out Georgia. It's an Ohio State-Georgia battle down to the end, and beating out Glenn Schumann for a linebacker when the success Georgia's had with recent linebackers, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Glenn Schumann, obviously their defensive coordinator as well. So the whole defense revolves around those dudes. And it's a pretty big deal. So I was really, really happy about that one. But who else is going to be on James Laurinaitis' top list, his top 5-ish, let's say, of linebackers that he wants to get after? For one, I think one of my favorites for sure is Roman Igwebuike out of Illinois at 6'3", 230. This is a big dude, long, athletic, and just an absolute thumper. The guy is something special. And he has been for quite a while. This guy's been on the scene for a long time. And you can just see the length when this guy's playing, man. He is absolutely every bit of 6'3" and just destroys guys. This isn't the highest level of football in Illinois, but you could just see he looks like a man amongst boys. The violence, it's all there for him. So this is definitely a dude high on the board. He is a top 10 linebacker in the class. I think he's number 6 now. That'll be fluid, but he'll finish as a top 10 dude. And if the Buckeyes were to get him, or obviously Caden Henderson, who most people know about Caden is the number 1 linebacker in the class. And where is Caden? That's not Caden. There is Caden. Caden's the number 1 linebacker in the class. He has been for a long time. He's out of Tampa Jesuit, and at 6'1", they list him 6'1.5". I think he's about 6'1". This is one of the faster linebackers you'll ever see. And when they use him to blitz a lot because he's just, the speed and the get off and the trigger is ridiculous. It's faster than Sonny or Arvell. He's in a smaller package. The violence, the sideline to sideline speed, the dude is just totally legit. And he loves Ohio State. He's been to Ohio State 3 or 4 times to visit. It is a real, honest, I mean, it could happen that the Buckeyes land the number 1 linebacker in back-to-back years, and that would be number 2, number 1, something we've never seen. Like, this is just getting like silly at this point. But in addition to those guys, those really highly ranked guys, what is impressing me the most right now about the Ohio State recruiting operation is the scouting department, and they've invested a lot because the thought was, look, we can invest a ton in the players. Why don't we take a lot of this money and instead invest in the scouting department? And if we can get 3 or 4 guys that we get the jump on and we find that other people don't find, or we find them first and get those relationships first, then we're going to save a lot of money in the long run that we can use to then spend on more guys. And in the end, we collect more talent. It's a great strategy if it works. And so far, so good. Obviously, Braxton Rembert is a testament to that. Of course, we got to see it play out on the field, but they certainly got their pat on the back when the entire recruiting industry realized, oh, shoot, they really, really got one here. And everybody, after giving him a fair look, came around on it. But I wrote about AJ Nelson at BuckeyeHuddle.com today. And AJ Nelson, you can check that out. That just published at about 6. wasn't really on the radar for many of the services. He was totally flying under the radar for everybody, really, except for James Laurinaitis in Ohio State scouting. Back in October, at the time Ohio State offered, this dude had just 4 low-level Power 4 offers. Like Michigan State, Mississippi State were his best offers. You go from that to Ohio State coming in, and everybody turns and looks, right? And this is just a long, smooth athlete, man. We're talking 6'3", but long-limbed. 210, plays both ways, quarterback, wide receiver on offense, linebacker on defense, and his highlights got a lot of the quarterback stuff in there. And as a quarterback, man, he looks smooth. But just a raw linebacker. He obviously needs some refinement. He needs the James Laurinaitis tutelage. This guy is like sky's the limit type of prospect here. And from a family of genetic freaks, he's a hurdler. His mom is in the Clemson Track and Field Hall of Fame. She's a 5-time All-American. His older sister is a sprinter at Kansas, and his older brother played in the NFL for 5 different teams, and now he's in the CFL. So a genetic freak with the bloodlines. He can do it all. He's huge, and he's raw. Perfect lump of clay. And since Ohio State's offered him, he now has 33 Power 4 offers, and everybody's after him. And he's now the number 6 linebacker in the country. So he went from number, 33 linebacker in the country when the Buckeyes got in on him. Look at him hawk this dude down. Look at him hawk down this running back. That's nuts, man. 2 in the top 10. And that's not all. We got another guy under the radar that I think is now in the Buckeyes, top 6 or 7 targets. That's Jaden Nelson. Jaden Nelson out of Langen Creek, Texas, who, when the Buckeyes offered him, nobody was on him. He was a lower ranked 3-star. He is also now a top 10 linebacker. You can see Rivals has him top 10, ESPN 11. Look, 247 doesn't even have him ranked yet. And this dude has just scheduled both a visit to Ohio State to come up for April 4th for the student appreciation scrimmage, and he will be back already for an official. So he's set up not just his first visit to come up and meet James Laurinaitis in person. I talked to both these guys. They're absolutely enamored with James Laurinaitis, particularly Nelson, who is like, I can't wait to finally meet him in person. We've developed this bond on the phone. And Jaden Nelson, Texas kid, total dog, absolute monster. And now we're talking, he's a top 10 linebacker as well. So another big win for the Ohio State scouting department. Another big win for James Laurinaitis. He's got the jump on the rest of the country. And these guys are now, I think AJ Randall's in his top 5. I'm not quite sure where Jaden Nelson is yet. We'll find out. And this is a guy that's going to be hard to pull out of Texas. He's got Texas, Texas Tech, TCU, Houston. And remember, all these schools are now paying a ton of money down there. We just saw actually SMU $50 million to their donated to their NIL program. So different type of deal going on with all the Texas schools. I used to laugh at people when they would immediately just kind of laugh and say, yeah, Texas oil money. And now I'm starting to see like, yeah, I guess, man, they kind of all have it. Every one of these schools, SMU, TCU, Texas Tech, they've all got it. It's pretty crazy, man. But my point is for this entire thing is when we look at the Ohio State linebacker room at this point, we went through some pretty lack of, not very talented linebacker rooms. We went through a period of that. And now it's starting to look like the makings of the Georgia linebacker rooms. It's starting to look a whole hell of a lot different. And I think with James Laurinaitis coaching, because let's be honest, have we ever had a coach as good as James Laurinaitis coaching the Ohio State linebackers? No, that's never happened. So we're combining this coach with players that we've had the players. We've never had the players and the coach. And I don't think we've ever had the quantity of talent, high-level talent that we're going to have here in the next 3 years. Just a backlog of total monsters, kind of like the run we saw Georgia go on with just dude after ridiculous dude. there are very few positions I would rather have it than at linebacker. So really, really excited about this. And if James Laurinaitis is as good at selecting as he is at coaching, buddy, this is going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun, man. A whole hell of a lot of fun. Let's move on. As our guy Cortez Hankton gets a surprise official from Benny Easter Jr. Benny Easter Jr., a 5-star wide receiver, the number 22 wide receiver in the country, out of Texas, and he is a Texas Tech commit, making big money. Scheduled an official to Ohio State, one of just 4 officials. He's got Texas Tech on there, Arizona State, maybe another Texas school. But all of a sudden, Ohio State out of nowhere, he's coming up for an official. 5'11", slot guy, maybe potentially a Z guy, but a bigger slot guy I think is probably best suited at. And he's a pretty electric athlete. But when we talk about wide receiver, I'm wondering what direction Ohio State's going to go here. Are they going to potentially invest in a second first rounder? A second first rounder, we got the talk about the first rounders. First rounders, in my opinion, and some people have differing opinions. Some people consider what Mark Pantoni's talking about when he says first rounder to be like the top 10 players in the class. I think he's more talking about like the top 5 guys that they're going to go a little extra with the money on to make sure they win. And that would be, to me, like a Monshun Sales. But you've already got Jameer Brown. Are they going to go all in on another wide receiver? Maybe. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll go in on another edge. Obviously, you got the number 1 in DJ Jacobs committed in the class. But Chris Whitehead is another one that some people think the Buckeyes are setting the pace on his recruitment. And Chris Whitehead, very well, on some people's rankings, might be the number 1 edge in the country. He's rivals number 3, a dude that's 6 foot 230, absolutely ridiculous skills, ridiculous moves. He's just a different level athlete. And is there a chance that we might see Ohio State invest in 2 top-tier edge rushers? He's scheduled his officials. Ohio State is up there with him. And that would be pretty damn interesting. And if you could choose one position where Ohio State invested in 2 of those top-tier first-round guys, what position would you choose? Would you choose wide receiver? Would you choose edge? I would choose edge myself. I think that when we look at wide receiver, I think we'll learn a lot this year. I think we'll learn a lot this year by how the wide receiver room performs by bringing in Devin McEwen and Kyle Parker. Like, what do these kind of transfer guys do when you bring them in? Devin McEwen in his 4th year, a veteran who's made some plays from a smaller school. Do you get the kind of production out of these guys when you pair them with one stud? Does it look a lot better? Does Kyle Parker potentially bring you some more juice in the slot? And it's going to be really interesting to see, is it necessary to bring in those 2 monster wide receivers, or might that be money better well spent on the edge? Don't know, but when we look at the top tier prospects that the Buckeyes are after, it feels like they're in on more than usual. We talk about the 5-star guys, and a lot of people talking about recruiting saying, I'm really just going to focus on the top end of the class because of all the guys that we saw leave after 2020, the class of 2025, 8 guys leave, totally understandable. But are we going to see maybe even more of those first rounders and less of that middle tier that costs money, right? Those guys that are kind of low end blue chippers, they cost bucks. You got to pay to bring them in. If you eliminate those and eliminate the money that's associated with them and focus all the money on top end guys, and then bring in even more of the 3-star free star guys, the league minimum guys, right? The baseline guys, is that not a better situation for you? I think it probably is. I think we might see that. I think in the end, we might see, we look at the 247 composite, you might have had like 3 5-stars. Rivals had Ohio State with 5 5-stars in this class of 2026. But that's just their opinion. When we look at the composite, there's two or three. And I think we might see a couple of more as we roll into the class of 2027, already sitting with two, with DJ Jacobs and Jameer Brown, who rivals drop down to their number 50 player in the country, number 7 wide receiver. He'll get that back at Big Walnut, no doubt about it. But Monchon Sales has scheduled his OV to Ohio State for June 12th. He is the number 1 on the board, number 1 on everybody's board, 6'5", 6'5". And then you go from him to Eric McFarland, who's like 5'7.5", playing down at IMG. Absolutely electric, man. I mean, obviously you want the 6'5" dude, but I'm telling you what, man, Eric McFarland, that is a fun football player. I just don't know like how many of those guys can you have? Cause now, you got Legend, you got Turbo Rogers. How many of these smaller guys that are kind of this ridiculous playmaker do you want on the team? I guess it depends how good Legend is, right? I think we'll see that he can kind of get it done right off the rip. But anyway, the linebacker room, absolutely. Oh no, my man said the whole Stover family just unsubscribed, as they should, man. That's just terrible. CJ says, are we still in it for Brock Williams? I mean, long and short of it, no. Texas came in with a Godfather offer, and if he's going to take, I thought Georgia was going to beat us anyway, just because of what they do with tight ends, even though we got a good sales pitch now, right? With tight ends, don't got the track record that they do sending to the NFL. And then Texas came in and really beefed it up. I personally think it's stupid to spend that much money on a 6'5", 210-pound tight end. Like, when does that guy get the bulk that he's going to need to actually play and contribute? Because right now he's just he's a big wide receiver, right? Oh, if the Stover family unsubscribes, Jack will drop to 20,000 subs. Look, hey, remember guys, we're on Buckeye Huddle right now. We don't want him to subscribe here, right? This is not on Buckeye Huddle. The opinions here are all mine. Hummus says, well, we did have Vrabel coaching linebackers, but just for 1 year. That's true. That is true. But I would still say James, a better linebacker coach. At least a better, I don't know. Zach says, Payton was incredibly productive, just doesn't quite have the sideline to sideline juice we've been blessed with. And that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, man, the dude gets the job done. And I think we're going to see, just like with Aliegro, when we talk about Payton, we hear Laurinaitis talk about his smarts and his instincts. Now he knows everybody else's job on every play. He knows everybody else's assignments. That kind of stuff leads to eventually, with experience, that anticipation, and that anticipation makes you faster. So that's always really exciting too. Anyone know who will call offensive plays this year? Arthur Smith, buddy. Arthur Smith's going to be calling those plays, designing that game plan, getting all them tight ends in there, rip roaring, ready to roll. And my hope is, because I've seen Arthur Smith line up and say, hey, we're going to go tempo. We're going to line up in the same formation 5 times in a row and hit you with 4 different plays. You're not going to know what we're doing, and you're not going to be able to sub. It's going to be fantastic. My hope is that he's got free reign to do whatever the heck he wants to as far as that goes. Now, he will be calling plays, though. So I'm excited about that, man. I really am. Like, this is growing on me big time. I think that what Arthur Smith is going to do is he's going to come in and he's going to show us on the field what Day saw in his head when he decided that he wanted to change the offense and go to this heavy tight end stuff, right? It looked clunky as hell with his crew last year, with Hartline and with those tight ends. This year, it's going to be like, okay, that's what he wanted this to look like. And I think it's going to be a dominant offense. I really do. Certainly got a whole hell of a lot of advantages. 1,000-yard back, best wide receiver in football. Now you got a veteran quarterback who is ready to win in the playoffs instead of getting shaken up in the playoffs, as we've got K-Mac down here stretching out. I thought I read K-Mac wasn't working out, guys. Did you read he was working out? I thought he wasn't working out, but I see him stretching in the end zone here. And yeah, I didn't think he was going to work. I read that he was going to work out at Pro Day. But without a doubt, the first D tackle, number one D tackle, no doubt about that. As the big guys, they still got the big guys running the 40 at the combine, I see, which is just the most ridiculous thing ever. Do not understand why they do this. But the Buckeyes trying to become the first program in college football history to get to 100 first-round draft picks. Currently sitting at 95 first-round draft picks. That is number one of all programs in the history of college football. If they get 5 in the first round, they hit 100, and in second place is USC at a paltry 86, but still very impressive. USC sitting at number 2, Alabama number 3, Notre Dame number 4, Miami number 5, then Florida, Texas, Michigan, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Is that Florida State down there? Yeah, Florida State, Penn State. Look at Michigan State. That's pretty damn good standing. Pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff for the Big Ten there. Well represented. All right, friends. I do appreciate you. We'll have another long recruiting show over the weekend over at Chuck on Bucks. And then Monday, we'll be back at it again here at Buckeye Huddle Primetime, as we are here every Monday and Wednesday at 8. No, Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. in the off season. Monday, Wednesday during the season. So I will see you guys back here Monday at 8 p.m. Thanks so much to those of you who join me in the chat. Appreciate you guys so much. And I'll talk to you soon. Buckeye Huddle out.